Hi, it's Anika from Living for Later. So the other morning, I was transporting my children, the three younger ones, to school. And we just had this familiar scenario played out. I had to give them a big speech about buckling their seatbelt. You would think that this was the first time that they had ever gotten in the van and that they just didn't know what to do, but that was not the case. It's almost like every time, 90% of the time that we get into the vehicle, I have to remind them, put your seatbelt on. And this is not a new thing. This is not a new revelation. Put your seatbelt on. And I was just expressing to them that yes, we pray and we ask God to keep us safe as we travel. And that's something that I try to do each time that we get into the vehicle. But I said, listen, we can pray, but we also have to make good of the provisions that God has put in place to help to keep us safe. So God clearly has given people wisdom on how to make the seatbelt, and the seatbelt was created. So yes, I pray, always pray and ask God to keep me safe, but I also go ahead and put my seatbelt on. I make good of the provision that's there to help with my safety. And we can't just ignore it and be like, oh, I prayed, I'll be all right. And yes, God certainly protects us. And I'm not saying that the seatbelt is always going to keep us from everything, that could possibly happen when we're driving. But we can't ignore that that's something that God gave wisdom on how to create and to help to keep us safe. And I was really thinking about it after I dropped them off, because I was fussing at them. I would love to tell you that I was calm, but I was just so irritated. And after I dropped them off, like, the thought just kept on playing over in my mind, and the Lord is like, you know what? That's how you can be sometimes. Sometimes you sit and you pray and you ask me for things, and you don't make good of the provisions that I've already put there. You don't think that prayer requires anything of you. And the Lord just showed me how on different occasions where I would go in prayer asking something of God, and didn't realize that in prayer it wasn't just about me submitting my request, but that God in turn would also require something of me, and that's action, right? He may show me, hey, yeah, you're praying about your health and the gut issues that you're having, and I'm giving you wisdom on how to change your diet, but you continue to eat what you want to eat. So you can pray all you want, but there's some actions that's required. True story. The story ends with, I learned my lesson and I finally started doing what I felt like God was saying I needed to do. And I think that I am now on my way to healing. So I think about people who perhaps have, an exam coming up, and they'll tell you, oh, pray for me, that God would give me wisdom on how to do well on this test. And then you go, did you study? And they have all this time and they're doing everything else but study, but they want you to be on your face in intercession for them to do well on the test, and they're not making good of the provision of the time that they have to study. So prayer is not this just, I'm just gonna tell God what I want and I just chill. No, God requires something of you in prayer. So I just want to encourage you. And another quick one that I want to throw out there is, people will say, oh, God, give me the strength not to fornicate or to not, fall into lust. And God allows it where certain relationships are cut off, or he may lay on your heart to get off, certain social media outlets for a while, for a season, and you push past that. And then every night you're praying, God, give me the strength to press past the temptations to fall into sexual sins. And he's like, okay, you're praying, but you're not, again, making good of the provisions that I've given you. I've allowed this relationship to die, and you're doing everything in your strength to keep it alive. And then you're asking me to deliver you, and you're not taking the way of escape that I have provided for you. I could go on and on with more examples, and you can fill in the blank with your own examples. So I just want to encourage you that should you pray at all times? Absolutely, we should. But don't use prayer as an excuse to not act. God may lay it on your heart in terms of what you need to do to help the prayer be answered. Don't put it all on God. Be obedient when he tells you to move, when he tells you to act, and don't just be like, oh, I'm gonna pray about it and just do whatever I want to do. No, no, no. That's just not how it works. So again, absolutely pray without ceasing, but also act according to how God is leading you. And if there's already provisions that he's put in place, like the seatbelt example that I gave in the beginning, use it. All right, you be blessed.